if you had a choice as to which of these animals were the king of the jungle, would it be a lion, tiger, or a leopard? Which one would you choose?
Lion.
Leopard.
I say lion.
Tiger.
Anybody, let's see the answer of those who say lion. How many says tiger? Okay, let me let you in on a secret. None of them live in the jungle.
Yes.
Now, it's, you know, I made this point for a very important reason. It's so easy for the entire world to have a perception that's totally wrong. Because you've never seen a lion in a jungle, as a matter of fact. You never see it on TV, and you've never seen it in a book. But where do we get the idea that lions or tigers live in jungle? They don't.
Tarzan.
They live on the plains, the savannah, that's where they live. They don't live in jungle. Yet still, if you were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you come to the final question, you would lose that million, and you'll go for lion or tiger or something. And that's totally wrong. So I just say that to prelude what I'm saying about truth. And that's what I'm trying to get across to people. And understand how easy it for us to have absolute certainty about certain things that's supposed to be true. And in some cases, it can be detrimental. And if we're talking about health, it's one of those areas that we cannot afford to be wrong about. So ego has to be put aside when it comes to knowledge. And we have to be a little bit humble, a little bit receptive to listen to and contemplate, and if we disagree, we do a little bit more research or something. That's the way it should be, because there's a lot of opinion. So everything I write in my book is going to be challenged by somebody. Just like the dairy industry going to defend their products. Back in the day, people used to defend cigarette smoking. Everything is always defended. Okay, so I'm going to do a presentation to do the background, to do the book. And you're going, some of the information will not necessarily be in the book itself. For example, any reference to do with black people is not in the book, because it's not a black book. It's a science book. I did not write the book per se as an opinion or a philosophy. The book is about science. And you will gather throughout the book, throughout my presentation, as to the source of this science. And the science comes from the very system that are in charge to solve the problem. Namely, doctors and the Cancer Research Organization and the World Health Organization, etc. And you will see what they have found out that most people are not aware of. That's part of what I'm trying to get across to people. So let's start off with, okay, that's the cover of the book. And say, exposing the deception of the no cure for cancer. Cancer used to be a disease that's now a multi-billion-dollar industry. How to cure cancer has been known since 1924. Now, the year 1924 is important simply because that was the first major clinical study breakthrough that happened. And I'll mention this further on in the book, where they had enough information from them if they were operating in the right arena to solve the problem. Right, the question is asked here, as I've discussed earlier, when is the first time to be concerned about your health? Is it when you're like, next? Is it when you're like this? Is that the time to be concerned about health? When you're fit and healthy and everything is going well? Is that the right time? Or should you wait until you're like this? Which option most people choose?
It's when they're sick.
This is when most people are concerned, when it's get to this stage. And what do we know about illness? It's harder to fix it than to prevent it. It's hard to prevent it because of a word called discipline. Right, so who knows the secret for the best cure for cancer? Anyone know the secret for the best cure?
What's to get it in the first place?
Next one. Prevention. You all smart people. I'm in the right room, right? Prevention is better than the cure. That's the secret. Right, so that's what the book is primarily about prevention and the lifestyle that associates with it. So we're about trying to educate people about how to prevent the disease. As I said, not everything in the book is in the presentation is from the book itself. So let's go for the next one. Right, now the WHO declares 2000 statistics. So 7.6 million people died in 2008 from cancer. 7.6 million. In 2012, that's the latest figure I managed to get, the rate went up to 8.2 million people. So if you do the maths between 2008 and 2012, if you do the maths, yeah, just stop here for me. If you do the maths, it suggests that the death rate between 2008 and 2012 grew by 150,000. Now, the National Cancer Institute declares that by 2050, the rate is going to double based on the 2008 figure. So they say, in other words, the 7.6 by 2050 is going to be in the region of over 14 million people. However, if you check if you did the 150,000 per annum, as displayed by the gap between the growth between 2008 and 2012, it tells you that if that rate was started when cancer thing manifests mostly, which was the turn of the century, if that rate was operating then, we would have been in the region of something like 16 million now, or beyond. So that tells you the rate is growing faster now than it ever grown. Right, so as I mentioned there, is 150,000. So as I mentioned there, if it started from then, it's growing at a faster rate than it ever did. If the rate, that 150 was back then. Now Cancer Research UK says 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women develop cancer. That's the figures they're using regularly. And many people are saying they're being very conservative about this. So it means that either you or somebody you know. And I'm sure everybody in this room knows somebody with cancer. But we never classify it as an epidemic. And in my mind, it's an epidemic. But it's never classified either, because the world has 7 billion people. 16 million die, you don't notice, do you? So we don't see, but if it's a flu, that becomes an epidemic overnight. They quickly label things like flu as an epidemic, but for some reason they don't classify cancer as an epidemic.
Because it's not contagious.
Right, but the definition should not be restricted to being contagious. Now, does this sound like I'm trying to scare with all these figures?
No, not at all. It's reality.
Well, in reality, I am trying to scare you. I am, but for justifiable reason. Now, the justification is this. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as I mentioned earlier, cancer is the #1 cause of death of children between 1 and 14. And most of us don't associate children with cancer. And many of us have never heard of this. Now, when I wrote the book, I wasn't aware, most of the statistics I use is to do with America. But I said in the book that, listen, don't mistake because, it's America. People tend to say, oh, the Americans, they eat a lot of these jumbo jerk things, so their situation is going to be worse than ours. Then I saw this in a bus in Wales there, saying the same exact thing. Can you read it?
Yeah.
Saying the same thing, except they're just begging money. So they're not going to exactly tell you, but the first question of inquiry should be, why are children having cancer? That should be the first line of inquiry, and with all the funding they have, they should be promoting this on prime media to explain to people. But none of are any of you aware of any such promotion to educate people as to why children are having cancer? Most of us never even knew that they had cancer.
I was just about to say, just before you put this slide up, I was just about to say, it's not commonly known that the cases of cancer within children are so high, because when it comes to children, it's more of an alarming effect. But the fact that it's on the side of a bus, and it's still not prime news anywhere.
Exactly. This is the point I'm saying. And the book is littered with things that they just don't tell you. If I never went on their website, I would see a lot of stuff that I find on the website.
What types of cancer do children contract more?
The common belief is that they have what's the usual? Well, in reality, they have the spectrum as well. They got brain cancer. They got a few. It's not the common one that we associate with children. They got the rest as well. Now, as I mentioned there, as I said, this is the book. The book doesn't deal with black issue. I just mentioned this because this is a black audience. That we should be concerned because all indices I see suggest that we are outperforming everybody with cancer and the other diseases as well. The question is why, and that's in itself. I don't deal with that in the question in the book, but it's something that we can talk about. Now, the question is why. Maybe it has something to do with these two things. You're all familiar with melanin? Right? Apparently, according to the theory, as I said, this is not in the book, so I don't want to mislead it. The theory is that melanin, by its nature, holds on to things. So it tends to, in other words, we are less resistant to junk food than other people because of melanin. The other way of looking at it is that melanin is the thing that makes us perform. It is not just responsible for skin color, is it? It's responsible for the fact that Usain Bolt can run fast. Don't get the idea about this Jamaican food nonsense, right? It's a melanin issue.
Not yam.
People with melanin can run fast.
You can't run fast.
Let's put it this way, right? It's very, very, I don't know many of you follow athletics?
Yes.
Okay.
Not anymore.
You're aware that it's only recently that a white man run below 10 seconds. There's only one white man have done it in history. Did any of y'all know that?
I don't know.
Right. So all the years of athletics, no white person run below 10 seconds. And only one man did it recently. So we think melanin is just about skin color. It's a lot more than that. Right? It's part of the thing that gives you speed, rhythm, and other attributes. And you're all black, so I shouldn't have to explain all the other attributes that you get from the fact that you're black. But just to highlight that the melanin thing doesn't like junk food very well. The other point I'm saying you could take from it is that if you're capable of this incredible speed, maybe that type of machine requires better nutrition. Just maybe. Okay? The other point is that it's been said that we eat more junk food than other people, like in particular salt and sugar. According to my friend Dr. Africa, we eat a lot of sugar because of emotional issues to do with depression. We need to be loved. Salt to do with anger. They link the two. It's linked to do with emotional apparently. I'm just repeating what I was told about this. So these are the side issues from what I've written, yes? We eat a lot of flour, like where I come from, we make these coffee dumplings. So we become a very carbohydrate-centered people.
Although bread and dumpling.
And what we call soul food is in fact slave food.
Yeah, that's what I call it.
Our diet was interrupted by slavery, and a lot of what we call soul food now is not really that. Africans got to the point of, they didn't just build pyramids, they got to a point where they knew something about nutrition. And it's only when they got rich, like the Egyptians got rich and they started to get a taste of exotic food, they started to have a lot of problems. That's why they had so many doctors eventually. Anyway, that's another side issue. Now, let me just play something from my friend Dr. Africa related to this point about melanin.